everyone, it's Miss Joyce. Today we'll be learning about numerical expressions. Let's start by finding some words that identify with different operations. Take a moment to pause this video to try this on your own and then check your work with this video. We're going to use the words that are in this word bank to put them on the lines with the operations below that each word identifies with. Let's start with the word quotient. So quotient is the answer to a division problem. So on the line for division, we're going to write quotient. Now we can cross off quotient and look at doubles. Doubles means times 2. So we're going to put on the times 2 line doubles. Difference is the answer to a subtraction problem. So where it says subtraction on that line, we're going to write difference. Is the answer to any problem or equation. So is means equals. Just like if we were to do 5 plus 3 is 8, 5 plus 3 equals 8. So is going to go on the line next to equals. Now we have sum. So the sum is the answer to an addition problem. So on the line for addition, we're going to write sum. Product is the answer to a multiplication problem. So for multiplication, we're going to write product. Triple is similar to double. It's just instead of multiplying by 2, triple, we multiply by 3. So triple is what we're going to write on the line next to 3 times. When we have 4 12s, that means that we are multiplying 4 groups of 12. So we're going to be multiplying 4 times 12. On the line where it says 4 times 12, we're going to write 4 12s. Now let's go to 3 15s. Very similarly, we have 3 groups of 15. So we can write 3 times 15. Next, we have 5 14s, or 5 groups of 14. So where it says 5 times 14, we're going to write 5 14s. Plus also refers to addition. So on the addition line, we're also going to write plus. Notice there's 2 words on the addition line. Sum is the answer to an addition problem, while plus just means we're adding 2 numbers. Finally, we have minus, which refers to subtraction. Same thing as when we had addition. Difference is the answer to a subtraction problem, while minus just means that we're subtracting 2 of those numbers. We're going to use these words to help us solve numerical expressions. So first we need to find the order that we're going to solve problems in. What we do is we think of the word gems. Each of these letters refers to a different operation that we'll be using. So gems helps us know which order we're going to solve the problem in. G stands for grouping symbols. These can be parentheses or brackets. So if you see numbers or an equation inside of the parentheses, that means we're going to solve whatever is inside first before we do any other steps, even if the parentheses are not the first part of the equation. The next is E, which stands for exponents. An example of an exponent might be 10 to the power of 2. So after you do everything that's within the grouping symbols, you're going to see if there's any exponents in your problem. If there is, like 10 to the power of 2, you'll go ahead and solve the exponent next. Now let's move to M. So the M stands for both multiplication and division. If there are both multiplication and division in the problem, you solve them going from left to right. So if there's a problem that has 4 times 3 divided by 2, since there's multiplication and division in this problem, we would do 4 times 3 first because that comes first in the equation. Finally, the S stands for subtraction and addition. Same thing as if there's both subtraction and addition in the problem, we're going to go from left to right, just like if we were reading a sentence. So these help us find which order we're going to solve the problem in. Let's look at these problems and decide which operation we'll solve first. In A, we have 4 times 3 plus 5. Notice that there are grouping symbols or parentheses in this problem. So since grouping symbols is first, we're going to solve whatever's inside of these grouping symbols first. So we would first do 3 plus 5. We can know that 3 plus 5 is 8, and then we would multiply that by 4 if we were solving the problem. So even though 3 plus 5 is addition, and that's at the very end of GEMS, it's inside the grouping symbols. So that means we'll do that first. Let's go on to B. So if we look here, we have 150 minus 10 to the power of 2. Well, let's start with the G, grouping symbols. We can see in problem B, there are no parentheses or brackets. So we're going to move on to the E, which stands for exponents. In problem B, we can see there is an exponent, 10 to the power of 2. So that's going to be the first step that we're going to solve. So we know 10 to the power of 2 is the same as 10 times 10, or 100. We would then subtract 150 minus 100. But we need to make sure we solve the exponent first. Let's move on to problem C. We have 4 plus 6 in parentheses divided by 5 minus 3. Let's start, see if there's any grouping symbols. We can see in problem C, there are 2 sets of grouping symbols. Since there are 2 sets of grouping symbols, we're going to do the one that comes first or all the way to the left, which is 4 plus 6. So we would solve 4 plus 6 first, which is 10. Then we would do the other set of grouping symbols, 5 minus 3, which is 2. Finally, we would end up dividing 10 divided by 2 in order to get 5. But here we're just solving the first step. Now let's go to problem D. Let's see if there are any grouping symbols to see, since G is what we're starting with in GEMS. In problem D, there are no grouping symbols. So let's see if there are any exponents. When we look at problem D, there are no exponents. So now we can move on to the M for multiplication and division. We can see in this problem, there's no multiplication or division. So let's go on to S, which stands for subtraction and addition. In problem D, we can see there's 2 sets of addition and subtraction. We have 10 plus 2 minus 5. Since there's both addition and subtraction in the problem, we're going to do the ones that go first, that start at the left. So 10 plus 2 would be the first step that we're going to solve because it's first in the problem. 10 plus 2 is 12, and then we would subtract 12 minus 5 to get 7. Finally, with problem E, we're going to see if there are any grouping symbols in problem E. We can see there are no grouping symbols. Let's go to E for exponents. We'll check problem E to see if there's any exponents, and there are no exponents. Let's go to M for multiplication and division. In problem E, we can see there is multiplication in this problem. So we would first solve 3 times 2 because that involves multiplication, even though it comes after the addition. So we know that 3 times 2 is 6, and then we would add 4 to get 10. If we ended up adding first, we would do 4 plus 3, which is 7, times 2 to get 14. So we would get a completely different answer. It's important that we follow GEMS so that we know the order that we're going to solve these problems in. Now let's try to rewrite these numerical expressions. Then we're going to solve them. So here we have 3 times the sum of 26 and 4. So let's start by just rewriting this as a numerical expression, which means we're using numbers and operations. Well, we know 3 times means we're multiplying 3 times another number. So we can write 3 and the multiplication sign. The sum means the answer to an addition problem. So we're going to be adding, and we can see we're adding 26 and 4. So we can write 26 and 4 here. But remember, the sum is the answer to the addition problem. So we're going to be multiplying 3 times the answer to 26 plus 4. In order to find the answer first, we need to put 26 plus 4 in parentheses. This will allow us to solve this portion of the equation first and then multiply our answer times 3. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do 26 plus 4, which is 30. Now we're going to multiply 30 times 3, which is 90. So our value or answer is 90. Let's try number 2. Here we have 6 times the difference between 60 and 50. Well, here we have 6 times, just like we did in the first problem. 6 times means that we're multiplying 6 by something, and we can see the difference is subtraction. We're subtracting 60 and 50. So we have 6, the multiplication sign, since that we see the word times. The difference means subtraction, and then we're subtracting 60 and 50. But remember, the difference is the answer to a subtraction problem. So we need to find the answer to 60 minus 50 first. In order to find the answer to the subtraction part first, we need to put 60 and 50 in parentheses. This will allow us to solve this portion first. So let's do 60 minus 50, which is 10. And now we can multiply 10 times 6, which is 60. So the value or answer to this problem is 60. Let's try another one. Here we have the sum of 2 12s and 4 3s. Well, we know the sum is the answer to an addition problem. So we know we're going to be adding, and we can see we're adding 2 12s or 2 groups of 12. So we'll be adding 2 times 12, and that'll be for 2 12s. And we're adding that to 4 3s, or 4 times 3, since 4 3s is 4 groups of 3. So now what we can do is find the value or answer to this. Remembering gems, we can remember that we're going to be multiplying before we add. So let's multiply 2 times 12, which is 24. And now we're going to multiply 4 times 3, which is 12. We can add these two answers together to get 36. So the value or answer is 36. Now let's go ahead and try number 4 and 5. Here we have the difference between 23s and 5 3s. Well, remember, the difference is the answer to a subtraction problem. So we're going to use the subtraction symbol. 23s is like 20 groups of 3. So we're going to be multiplying 20 times 3. We'll get that answer and then subtract the answer to 5 3s or 5 groups of 3, which is 5 times 3. So remember, with gems, we need to multiply before we subtract. So let's multiply 20 times 3, which is 60. And now we're going to multiply 5 times 3, since gems multiplication comes before subtraction. 5 times 3 is 15. Finally, we can subtract 60 minus 15 to get 45. So the value or answer is 45. Finally, for number 5, we have the sum of 10 and 5 doubled. So the sum is the answer to an addition problem. So we know we're adding 10 and 5. So let's add these numbers together. Now remember, we're getting the answer to this first and then doubling the answer. Well, doubling means we're multiplying by 2. So we're going to put 10 and 5 in parentheses so we get the answer to this first, and then we're going to multiply the answer times 2. If we didn't put the parentheses in, we would first have to do 5 times 2. But by putting the parentheses in here, we're going to do 10 plus 5 first, which is 15. Now we can multiply the answer 15 times 2 in order to get 30. So the value or answer is 30. Now let's try rewriting these numerical expressions in words and then solving. So here We have 16 plus 9, so we're going to get the answer to that. And then we're going to multiply the answer times 4. So we know we need to get the answer to this addition problem first. Remember, the word we can use to find the answer to an addition problem is sum. So we're going to find the sum of 16 and 9 first, and then we're going to multiply that answer times 4. So the sum of 16 and 9 means that we're going to put 16 and 9 in parentheses and get that answer first. And then we're going to times or multiply by 4. Now let's go ahead and solve this. So we have 16 plus 9 in parentheses times 4. Well, we're going to do 16 plus 9 first since those are in our grouping symbols. 16 plus 9 is 25. And now we're going to multiply this answer times 4, which is 100. So the value or answer is 100. All right, so now let's try B, 2 multiplying by the answer to 43 minus 13. So first we're going to be multiplying here. When we're rewriting this in words, we can see that we're multiplying 2 times the answer to the subtraction problem. So let's write 2 times, because that's what's here. And now we're going to be finding the answer to 43 minus 13. Well, the answer to a subtraction problem, the word we can use is difference. So we're going to be finding the difference between 43 and 13. When we solve this, we know that we're going to be solving what is inside the grouping symbols first. 43 minus 13 is 30. And then we're going to be multiplying that answer 30 times 2. So 2 times 30 is 60. So the value or answer is 60. So here we have 20 times 4, and we're going to find that answer and then add it to the answer of 5 times 4. So let's first rewrite this in words. 20 times 4, so another way you can write that is 20 fourths. And we're going to be adding that, so we're going to be using the plus sign, to 5 times 4, or 5 fourths. So we have 20 fourths plus 5 fourths. So let's go ahead and solve this. First, we're going to do 20 times 4, which is 80. And then we're going to add that to 5 times 4, which is 20. When we add 80 plus 20, we get 100. So the value or answer is 100.